All right. Moving on. Our first session of the day is Business Imperatives of Security. We have Mittal, President Nasscom, to chair the session. Our panelists for this session are Raman Roy, Chairman and MD, Quatrro Global Services; Preeti Das, CEO, Birlasoft; and Kartik Shahani, Country Manager, India and SAARC RSA. I now hand over the session to our chair.
Well, good morning again. I think we have lost some people here already. So, sorry for this intermission. I just had to go out to see the Minister off. So can we have somebody get people inside? We're starting the session. Well, good morning and thank you all for being here. And I'm not going to go through your individual introductions. You probably have them in your folder there. I was just reflecting here when Mr. Sibal was speaking. I thought that was quite comprehensive. The fact that he himself, and I suppose the fact that he leads these three ministries of telecom, IT, and law, right, I think makes it important. I think we're very happy that we have somebody like him, right, who knows the implications as we take many more decisions on both the legal framework and how it's getting implemented. But, we're getting back here. I know that many of you, most of you are from business, and I think we need to see where security stands, and is it really a business imperative or one of the tick in the box that we do. And as I said before, I think the industry over the years has matured. I remember 2 years back we had a conference in London, and one of our customers who was from the banking industry actually stood up and he says, I feel most secure going to India and doing work because each of you are actually representing many customers. Each one of us comes and puts our own security framework on you. We do regular audits. And because there is so much audit that's going on, we think it's a secure place. He also mentioned that, you have young people. Our average age in the industry is 27. And most of them, this was their first job. And what you do when they come in to work for you is to tell them about how important cybersecurity is. So he said that if there was one place, we didn't have to change them. That's the way they were brought up, and hence that was, a secure place to go. But it's not only what you secure internally, as we discussed in the morning. I think we have threats from outside. But notwithstanding that, I think a DSCI survey, again, the one that we did, Kamlesh, 2 years back, showed that the weakest link in any one of these was not processes, it was not technology, it was still people, right? And so how do you work on this? So has it become a boardroom discussion? Does it get the same level of attention in our organizations as would be our compliance to SEBI norms or those listed overseas, SEC conditions, our filings and so on? Or it is still more at an operational level? And should this not be one area which is a real business imperative, because a single threat, a single failure would happen? We're very fortunate that, we have 3.2 million people working in this industry. We have been doing this for 25 years. We are dealing with fairly sensitive information. And by the way, it is no longer about outsourcing, offshoring, cost, and so on. I think we are helping people run their business. And as the cloud does bring in specialization of kinds, I think today a lot of processes, when new companies get set up, they never build many of the business processes inside. They start with outsourcing them to start with. So today what we do is helping run companies' businesses, and should there be a problem, we are not risking our business, we are risking our customers' business. So I'm going to ask our panelists, how much time, Kamlesh, we have for this session now? 45. So, if I could ask each of you to give your perspectives to start with, and then, we'll have some questions, both from me as well as from the floor, and maybe have interactions. But let's also go through a process where we are questioning each other on what we say. And shall I give the first privilege?
Let the ladies start.
Over to you. You want to speak from here? Move? Up to you.
I can go there.
There's a mic right there.
Yeah, I can use it.
Thank you very much. It was a very good session, what I heard, Dr. Bajaj speak, and then, Honorable Minister Kapil Sibal speak about, the perspectives, and pretty comprehensive. Coming from our perspective, and we are a technology provider to the global companies, especially to Fortune 100 customers. It's a very different world out there. I feel that it is at a set of baby steps that we have taken on security. Globally, it is not about an India issue. Globally, the top Fortune companies are still rising to the fact that there is a need for security. And I'll give a couple of examples which might be of interest over here. Some of the solutions that we are working on are so disruptive. There was a mention about mid-sized companies becoming extremely strong on disruptive technologies, and where we operate is very futuristic technology. Some of the work that we do is in Internet of Things. I'm not sure how many here would know about Internet of Things, but let me give a simple example. Your refrigerator, a new gen refrigerator, is going to now let you know about your BMI. It's going to have a front end which is based on internet, and it's going to let you know about what kind of BMI you want to achieve, and hence what kind of food products it should store, and hence what kind of order it will place with the nearest supermarket, and the food will be available at your doorstep. That is the situation which we are in, and next year you will see such launches. Internet of Things is becoming very, very disruptive. I'm just giving one example. That's where the world is going. And the Gen Y that comes to work for us today is basically talking about apps exchange, which is being built on cloud basis, and the cloud infrastructure. In such a situation, I think the balance of what Mr. Sibal spoke about is extremely important. The combination of disruptive innovation, culture, and allowing that to happen. I see this as a huge business opportunity, and it's a sort of vision. Can we make India the most securitized destination? Because security is now no more about risk. Risk is a base. I think we can club it along with our capability to appeal to the world that we are the most secure destination, and hence package it along with our solutions to make it the most arrived destination. Something that you just spoke about. So that to me is the next wave of opportunity. And every company today is saying, if we have to be in that part of the world, what do we do? So there is a huge business imperative. It's not just a risk, but it is a huge opportunity as well. That is point number one. Point number two, in my opinion, is that it requires huge amount of training and awareness. And the awareness itself is not to that extent. Most organizations today deal with very, very basic level of. So while the people who are in charge of, security are very well versed, however, the rest of the teams actually do tick marks. And they really are not aware of some discretionary way of dealing with security. So I'd like to leave it here. I'm sure there are many more points that others would want to talk about, but we can keep on discussing this at length.
Let me try and build on what Preeti said. And there's talk of investment. Now, all of us here are from different industries. So let's take this scenario that the industry we represent, like the IT and BPM industry, it's about 100 billion. So when you represent $100 billion industry and there is a threat to that industry, $100 billion industry is willing to make huge investments for its protection. Maybe 5%, maybe 7%. 30 years ago, when I was in the card industry, one of my seniors who was specialized in fraud or fraud control taught me that for the fraudsters, it is an industry. It is $100 billion fraud industry today. And they are investing billions of dollars to be one step ahead. Right now, as we sit here, somewhere in the world, the fraudsters are sitting in a room and having a similar conference saying, how do we keep one step ahead? The fundamental aspect is that security, the way we look at it to protect our assets, it is not a one-time activity. It is a process. It is a continuum. Because somebody is going to learn what we are doing to protect our assets and then find a way to be able to beat the system, because that is their business. Penetrating into the system, creating fraud, taking out data, misusing data is their business. And we have to find a way to protect it. And it gets complicated by our assets. Our biggest movable asset today in any industry, more so in services industry, is our people. Every day our biggest asset leaves our office and goes home. Every day our biggest asset has an influence upon him or her, how their position could be misused for either financial or non-financial gains. Every day some thoughts get planted in our movable assets, our employees, of how they can misuse their position. And every day you and I must find a way so that we can identify that something wrong is happening to be able to stop it. If you go to the doctor's world, it would be to say, bleeds will start anywhere in the body, any day, and every time you have to put a tourniquet to stop that bleed. It is a process. Yes, you can discuss it in the boardrooms. You can empower the people to be able to take corrective action. But like the minister said, it is instant reaction that is required in the world of today. You do not have the ability to set up a committee and call for a meeting when you're being attacked in the cyber world. You have to react. You have to find a way to be able to stop it. And that is a big challenge. And the learnings from each other, are the fraudsters learning from each other? You know, in the card world, the skimming devices where you run the magnetic stripe of a card on a device which copies the magnetic stripe is available at a pathetically low price. In India, at Nehru Place, at Leamington Road in Mumbai, for a few hundred rupees you can buy that device that will help you copy the card and be able to use it. The fraudsters are cooperating with each other and making a business out of that cooperation. It is essential that we, for our protection, for the corporate world, we cooperate with each other and we get together in forums like this under the aegis of DSCI to be able to find ways where we can protect ourselves. We'll talk about it a little more.
So taking it forward from where Raman's taken us, there was a mention of how cybercriminals are a step ahead of us. And if you look at it, let's look at it from a human mind. A human mind can't imagine or doesn't know what it doesn't know. So if a cybercriminal commits a crime and that's detected, that's when you're going to know. So how do you expect to be ahead of him when you don't know what he's going to do? So you're always going to be therefore one step behind what a cybercriminal is doing or planning. There is obviously one way that we can get around by which we can either be in step or slightly ahead, and that is to know what we don't know. What we're realizing today is there's so much of data that's there, it's getting collected, and we call that data big data. And this big data is now a source of information for us to start looking at abnormalities, start looking at what things a human mind doesn't know. And that's done through intelligent systems. So intelligent systems will start questioning. And they'll start looking at things that don't look normal. And they'll start raising an alert. When you see that alert, you can then start thinking how a cyber criminal will think. And now, that tool becomes extremely important for us. We also had this whole thing on human capital and what is it that we can do with them. we are woefully short of people who have the ability to look at this data and start making sense of it. With the kind of population that we have, an intellectually competent young workforce, they are the people who are going to be able to use these tools to be able to keep in step either with the cyber criminals or get ahead of them. We also look at the way we do business, and we look at two factors that came up. One factor that came up was, how do we react? Well, you can't react if you can't detect. And you can't detect if you don't know what to detect. So it gets into a very interesting conversation. What do we do then? Well, the only thing that you can do is start having systems which will help you detect, and after you detect it, react even faster. From a study, it's interestingly known that 70% of our security budget gets invested in perimeter security. About 10 to 15% gets invested in detection systems, and between 2 to 3% in reaction or reactive systems that will respond to an issue. So when you're already compromised, when you've got the enemy inside, he's crossed your perimeter, you have no money invested in detection, and you are so slow in response, no wonder the dwell time today in average is 450 days. So the enemy is in your network for 450 days. And sometimes it takes weeks and years to respond to it. So what we have today is, we need to use the tools, we need to train human capital to be able to detect, and then have systems that react even faster. So I'm going to leave it there and open it up to Som to take it forward.
Thank you very much. I just thought I'll do a check on the audience. How many of you are not from the IT, BPM industry, but are really as user industries, CIOs and others, servicing others? Not from the IT, BPO industry. Yeah. That's amazing, right? I think it's, thank you for all being here, but we would have hoped that there will be many more. So it's, the IT, BPO industry and providers, technology, I think it's our business to secure ourselves. And I think that just shows, has it become a business imperative or not? Because we would have expected many more banks to be here, many more. So it's not about IT and BPM and engineering services industry, right, which are at risk. I think every sector, and Mr. Sybil mentioned this, so Kamlesh, you have a big job to get them into this room, because I think those are the one, otherwise we are probably preaching to each other what exists. You scared me. Yeah, you did, finally. Right? I was wondering if there is a DSCI Data Fraud Council of India meeting somewhere, right, with the president and a CEO sitting around talking about how we're going to counter all these guys talking about technology and so on. I'm not sure how organized they are. Maybe they are, right? I think they share much more than we do. And I think that takes me to this question. You all talked about, we know this is happening, and we have Dr. Gulshan right here as well, right? How much do we share, right? When we have breaches, when we have attacks, right? So, you talked about big data. Do we have big data on actual attacks that are happening? And what is keeping us back? What do we do to build that trust that we don't feel exposed? And I'd like each of us to answer that.
So just on that, and this is a very moot point. Every single meeting that we have, segment-wise, industry-wise, this issue comes up. The collaboration underground is far, far better than the collaboration overground. And one of the reasons why... When I say collaboration underground, I mean all the people who are hacking and doing it, there's an industry. There's one set of people who make tools for it. There's one set of people who will support those tools. So there's Zeus and SpyEye and other such products. They have versions. They have AMCs. They have support levels, very much like what it is overground. They also sell it for a pittance and also ensure success ratios. So if you use this tool, the bare minimum that success ratio you're going to get is so much. So it's a complete industry, and just like, Raman mentioned, it's
I'll just add one line to them. and their sharing mechanism is far more sophisticated than ours. They have a revenue share.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really works very well. It is very sophisticated, and that is, unless we understand that, we'll never be able to counter it.
So, taking that forward, the issue people face in collaboration above ground, so to say, or the legitimate people, is the fact that will they get penalized if they were to share information with everyone? So it has to be anonymous. The way the US is dealing with it is they have set up what they call as ISACs. And the ISACs will take a signature or a type of attack in anonymity, which means that you can, as a member, submit that. Once that's submitted, it goes as a feed to every single member. I represent RSA. We use this on our back end for our customers. So when we provide a service to a bank and we see a fraud pattern, we'll take that fraud pattern and send it out to all members who will make a rule out of it. Now, bodies like DSCI are the ideal bodies to be able to be ISACs for the country. They can be ISAC for manufacturing, an ISAC for BFSI, an ISAC for telco, and people will be members. And because of it being anonymous, there will also be a platform from where they can share. And that is one way, Som, we can look at taking this forward.
So I want to, first of all, ask a question to the audience. How many of them have come across direct, attack of that nature? That is one. And the second point that, sorry.
They want hands up?
Yeah, okay, yeah, hands up. Absolutely. So there are a couple of them, but I'm not seeing majority who has really encountered that. That's the first question. That's right. That was what I was coming to. That's number one. So are we even aware that we are being hit, or somebody is constantly using it? Like you have an insider who's sitting inside the system and using it continuously, and nobody knows, what's going on. So that could be one. The second thing that I think all of us need to more worry about is that most of the crimes happen internally. There is an external world out there, but because of the kind of, workforce that moves around, and you spoke about people, going home, it is not just going home, it's leaving the organizations. And that is the second set of people. It's so easy, and I was talking with one of my colleagues, I think he's here, he told me a very key point is that I look after the security, and I have a bunch of, some 40, 50 people who work for me. If somebody is upset about the way he's treated in the organization, is not happy or whatever, it takes him, just before the day he leaves, to implant something before he walks out and then have the entire organization at threat. So I think these are the 2 points I just wanted to, I'm not an expert on security, but the kind of, at my level, I worry about it day and night. As to what is happening, is all my organization information going out? And it is not just our organization information, we are responsible for a whole bunch of customers sitting out there whose IP, whose data we sit with.
So if I scared Som about the fraudsters meeting, let me try and scare each one of you individually also. We all use Google sometime or the other to do a search. Has anybody ever read the agreement that Google has when you do the search? It says Google has a right to store the data of every search that you do. Not misuse it, but use it for whatever. I mean, whatever the legal terms are. Think about it. Kartik spoke about big data, and Som added some things on the big data. What searches you do on your mobile, on your laptop, on your iPads, on everything, is lying somewhere on a server. Where if somebody was to accumulate that data, think about what all they would know about you. I mean, I break into sweat. I've changed my search norms ever since I discovered this. And if Google gets hacked, and that data about you gets stolen, based on the security norms that Google follows, you individually and your companies can be under threat. It's a very sobering thought of what all people can find out about you and how without your compromising anything, you could put yourself and your companies to risk. So collaboration and that ability to understand where the threats are coming from, where if somebody has experienced something, to tell others so that they don't experience it, and hear from others, where you can put up the so-called walls around yourself, is very, very critical. And this is not about using this particular application or that particular application, but this is about protecting yourself. And that, I think, is very, very critical.
You know, I'm not sure which side of the bed I got up today. Right? These three people, right? We are here to look at solutions, right? All three of you have very successfully given us the FUD, right? Of where we are and what's happening, and it's real, right? Can we shift to saying what can we do, right? So, are you guys all convinced that we are threatened? Yeah, right. And,
So I must say, I must give it a positive twist to what Raman said. So Raman, all that information that went in the searches is used positively for figuring out the unknowns. So when you type in Google insurance car, Google puts in a whole bunch of others. And where's it got it from? From figuring out what others have asked. So let me put a positive twist to it. All that is big data. All that is coming out to help us. So when we do a search in our organizations, or when we start looking at threats and we put in, all those searches somewhere is a string that's helping us. So it's a cumulative wealth of information. So I'm looking at the positive side of what Google is storing.
Okay. Now guys, all specific questions. You said employees, right? They are the biggest asset. They go back home. They come back next morning. So what is, each one of you have to answer this, right? So what do you think is the mantra that you want to give for us to resolve that problem? Yeah.
I think first of all, awareness. And it's exactly like I will equate it to, the way our communities are built. So the communities where we have, you don't have a policeman standing everywhere near your house. You don't. But how does the maker-checker work? Because you're a social animal and you know what's happening in your neighborhood. And this is practiced very well in the West. It's slightly lesser in India. Yet, a little bit of snoopiness around what's going on between each other. I think that whistleblowing is extremely important. And folks who work with each other, they know exactly what's going on. So openness to whistleblowing is important. That's one. Second, awareness. Well, most of the folks are not even aware. So that it's important to let them know there is a security policy. I know there are a lot of screensavers that come up and, in every company they show this is our security policy. There are billboards stuck everywhere. That's not enough. Because most people have eye contact with that. They don't understand what it means. So that is very important. Third is training. A continuous improvement you spoke about, Mr. Roy. I think that's very important. Constant training. Because, very simple, the definition of sensitive data is changing every day. Every day it is changing. And I can promise you in 10 years' time, banks and other companies will say, I don't care because it's impossible to protect it. So maybe, you guys should be protecting yourself. Figure out a way to protect what you call sensitive data. And that's where the world is going. So those couple of things are very important, at least in today's world, because, the future is being written somewhere, either by a hacker or by an innovator. Doesn't matter. We have to protect ourselves today. So I think two, three points at a very simplistic level. Giving a very big design is not going to help because it's a proliferation issue. It's at every person, every desktop, every laptop, every BYOD that we call at every instrument level. So we cannot be prescribing something very big, but at least basic simplicity is what's required.
So just to be a subset of what Preeti said, I think two factors. One is accountability and second is participation. So as long as employees are held accountable and they believe they are accountable for what they do and their participation in the growth of their own company both those feelings will be things that will allow them to do better for an organization, and they'll be more careful.
I think there's also an aspect of where we do find people, and we do catch people, believe it or not, who are compromising our security standards and misusing their positions or data. It is also an aspect of showcasing what we do about it. If they are sacked, others know that if they do such kind of things, they will get sacked, or a police complaint will be done. Actually, a police complaint in this country for cybersecurity is a bit challenging today. I mean, imagine going to a police station and saying somebody did a fraud on cybersecurity. They'll tell you, why do you use computers? I mean, you shouldn't. But we have to find a way to overcome those challenges. I'm a part of the BPO industry. We do find a lot of these instances of misuse. And I can tell you, it is a challenge getting an FIR done, getting people arrested, letting law then take its own course. We are not trying to sit on judgment and see whether somebody did a right thing or wrong. Now there is a cybercrime cell in the police. They have a far better understanding of what has to be done. But I've had cases where the HR department or the guys will come back and say, his career will get ruined if he make a noise about it. He has agreed to resign. Should we just let him resign and go? And then I complete the sentence for them and take that fraud elsewhere so that yet another company suffers. But it is a challenge, and what Som said, what do we do? Some of the things that we have to do are challenging, and we have to rise up to the challenge, because it is in our collective good to be able to get this movable asset to understand that they cannot misuse their position. They must be aware. That's the point that Preeti made. It has to be continuous training. They will get an understanding that data that they are working on is valuable. They must see an environment where they should not misuse their position and misuse that data, because the consequences will be bad. And it is an ongoing exercise, at least to my mind.
I think this was really good. So, if we look at this aspect of what we discussed, right, just to summarize, I think...
The others were also good.
No, we spoke about, the fact that this is not a one-time training. It's not a tick in the box saying we have told all our employees about what security is. It's a continuous process, because changes are happening on a continuous basis. You mentioned very well about how, there has to be accountability for it. It can't be left. And, Raman, the fact is all this is nice to do, but if we didn't set up examples, right, it's not going to be so. I think we're really talking about this being, being paranoid about this, because there is a real risk that we run. And I don't think we can overemphasize this part. So, each of you take home is really, right, it's continuous. Do that. I think DSCI produces a lot of documents which can be used, reused, because, by the way, one company being secure and other not is not a competitive edge, right? Because the risk is that all our customers would turn our back towards it. Right. Our own experience has not been very good on taking it further in terms of judiciary. Most of the time, as you mentioned, Raman, it's companies that are scared of reputational risk. And I think we have now seen in many other areas of our personal lives that today, whether it is women and so on, are coming forward, right, on bringing up issues and cases that should be brought up. We, how many, Kamlesh, have we crossed 40,000 officers? Right, so we have now trained 40,000 officers who know what cybercrime is. But 40,000 for a country like ours is still small, right? And I think we need to work with our home ministry. We do it in 8 states. How do we take it forward to all other states to make that happen? And should we have even courts? So it's okay for us to have the police do what they would, but the judiciary also, right, should be then equipped to be able to handle this. So I think we have a big job ahead.
Can I just add one point quickly? I think you just spoke about leading by example. And I wanted to make a point here because it was not about what we've done, but the reason I think why some of us are here is because we've taken a lead. I'd like to talk about a few points, let's raise the bar a little, and to what Mr. Bajaj, Dr. Bajaj had spoken about. What is, I think, that 4 or 5 things that we have implemented, and just giving an example, as a user of security. Number 1, I think it's security risk and assessment and a constant stress test on your, security systems as a solution that you were talking about. Second is training and awareness. We spoke about that. Third is endpoint security. You have to put in security tools. And I'm not the expert like I said, but it'll be great to have ahead of the, curve kind of a security, because this is all about preventive. You cannot have curative in this situation. However, even though the future is being written somewhere, at least we know what we know. So we should try and react to that faster. And then, application security, because you build applications and, you have to build in security inside that entire solution. That is what customers are asking today. And that's why I began with, it's an opportunity. While there are challenges, but there are challenges in any business you do. What is important is to convert it into an opportunity and say, we are slightly ahead of the curve. So does India become a better destination?
Yeah. So, given the fact that this is area of specialization, anecdotally we know what's going on, right? But we have the brightest minds underground, like you said, right? So, is managing security a preferred career option? Are the best people opting to work here? Are we putting our best people on security? You took a deep breath?
That's a great question.
So one of the things that I believe is that while we've got potential, there needs to be a platform, like you've got ISC2 that does a lot of these trainings, but we have to have many more of those organized and start filtering it downwards, not at the time when they become professionals. Start at school level, start at college level, start at professional courses on security. There is enough opportunity in security. The population is aging around the world, especially in Europe and other countries. They're desperately in need of people. But they don't want people who they're going to get, teach, coach, and help them. So they're not interested in having trained people coming. So we require our education system to be able to start pushing security so seriously down to the school level that the next generation and the generations after that come out wanting to do security, wanting to work in that space, being responsible citizens also. It's almost like doing national service in Singapore. You have less crime, you are more disciplined because every single person is trained. If you have security as a subject through your schooling, you just come back more accountable when you are older.
I do think it's a double-edged sword, though, because it will also get those with the criminal bent of mind to look at the opportunity of overcoming that security. I mean, sorry to be the bearer of bad news. But Som, you raised an interesting question to say, are we putting our best people on it? And really, as I think about it, as I think of what I see in the industry, I don't think we are putting our best people on this because the people also have to see a career option. And when you give career options to your best people, they have to see a future. So at the moment, I think we are in the evolution stage of this, where we are, as an industry or as a society, willing to lose money rather than spend money on the protection. And that stage will come, and I guess having a dialogue to say that it could be prevented, you don't have to lose billions of dollars, but it can be prevented, but then you need to put the right people and therefore create career options. That is the evolution that has to happen. To my mind, it has began, but we are very far away where we would have our best people choose that as an option.
Yeah, so I think we have a task to do where, at the career level, right? So if you look at it, a CFO knows his or her position in an organization. And what are they doing? They're protecting the assets, their finances, and so on. And I think people like many of you here, right, are protecting the businesses, right, for your own companies. So how do we raise this level within the organization? Some of the times I find this big problem that, we in the tech space, right, use very complex terminology, right? We scare the hell out of a CEO, right? He lets you be because, so is there a way that we can demystify it, right? Manage the complexity below, but be able to raise the bar. So collectively, how do we do that? People can see, really this session is about business imperative. How do we get that changed, right? How do we ensure that the security gets its right place? And by the way, there will be another conference where we'll be discussing how quality is important in finance and compliance and so on. But we do think that this point where technology is new and it is getting so pervasive that this is something that's less understood than traditional threats of finance and frauds. Any comments?
So I will see this under, I know again I'm using a jargon, but it's a very important jargon. I will see this under the umbrella of governance, risk, compliance. The whole business that you run on is also regulated. It's regulated by the various industries you work for. So you are right, the presentations that happen from the security set of people, even from our customers, are pretty complicated, for one to absorb. And demystifying that, simplifying that is very crucial. Very, very. It's got to be coming in a very simple language. And I think that's a very good suggestion that you're making, because I see that also, that you get completely clouded by what is being told. But we have, managed to do that to some extent, because what we have done is we have trained our business people into Six Sigma and compliance and then security level. So they talk the business language with us. I think that's been a change within our organizations. And I would say we have put our best people on that. But there are only 2 or 3 such people, because volunteers to get into that are few. It's the bold ones who have come forward and said, we would like to take this. And the only way it has happened is because they are promised a different kind of future later, not necessarily a career in security. That's because there is still a cloud about what is a career in security.
So the other thing, I've also said, taking it from Preeti's previous discussion on awareness, and also Raman's continuous testing, I think organizations could help if they were running some fun stuff, like, you have a page which is a fished page and a non-fished page, and you run it and start asking people, so do you think which is the right one? And run contests around it. And in the process, get them to understand what are those things that you need to look at when you know it's a fished page or a non-fished page. And things like this could start making it fun and aware. Have what you call as a hackathon within your organization. And it's like legitimate and you do it. And then also things like, what is the kind of information you don't want to put? So have nice fun videos showing how you could get impacted if you put too much information on your Facebook or on Twitter or on LinkedIn, like, I'm going on a holiday for 15 days, and then you come back and find yourself swiped. Obviously. So those kind of things, I think those could be things that could get awareness growing.
So to your organizational point, I think getting the C-level trained on security, both the pluses, the risks, the opportunities, I think that is very critical, because wherever the C-level gets trained, whether it is the CEO, CFO, CIO, across the board, maybe even at a board level, then security becomes a question, because the risk aspect of this I think will resonate with the C-level of what the risk is of security, and maybe it is the fear factor that will allow them to get an understanding and then take some action.
Okay. For those of you for whom security is business, yes, right, would you help us put a presentation which is demystified, right, which we as DSCI and Nasscom will take to our CEOs? So are you taking back some work from this? Yeah. Okay.
He's got homework.
So, Kamlesh, you're making notes, right? Because there's some jobs that have been assigned to you as well, right? You know, so some takeaways from what we discussed, right? I think help demystify it. Don't make it so complex. You know, IT industry has been, you know, just when we understood something, you know, we had client server, we had SOA, we had something else, you know, so we always complicated, and the CEO said, hey, you know, go manage it, don't come back to me, right? But I think it's a job to demystify this, take this forward in a manner, and the next proof for you is that when you're presenting, is the team there doing BlackBerry or doodling, or are they listening intently to you, right? And I think that should be a check. I'm not sure whether in our industry, while we award people who get an order, do we have a gallantry award when somebody prevents an attack, right? And I think let's introduce an award by DSCI, right, which will award people who will come back and saying, I prevented this thing, so that we raise the level not only for those people who got an order, right, but also prevented a disaster from happening. I'm going to change, I'll come back to the audience, but this question that you said, you know, we talk about India, 1.2 billion population, 50% of it is less than whatever 25 years of age. That's Gen Y, right? I'm sure there are many here in this audience. But, you know, they are putting their own information, right? They don't care about security. They are the guys who come and work. So what are we doing to be influencing those? So those of us who are in social media or who are leveraging the internet, who are actually gaining from it, are we telling the perils of this to the young people so that that awareness gets built?
Look, as a father of two daughters, 21 and 15, I can tell you it's very challenging to tell that kid not to put that thing on Facebook, okay? But, I mean, she is saying, Dad, you don't know. I mean, what? Facebook didn't exist when you were my age. What do you know? So, but yeah, it's risky, and when misuse does come out, at least I have a chat with the kids to say, look what happened because of whatever was put and whatever happened with the Facebook friend, etc. But it is a genuine threat. But the aspect is not coming from a parent may be very challenging. We've had chats with the school so that they create a community where people in the school talk about it, because listening to each other is easier. But it is, you're right, it's a genuine risk. As kids, yes, the employees, what they are putting of my company's information on their various tweets and blogs and everything, it's a risk. So getting people to understand it's a changing world, and even we don't know what the right way to tackle it is, quite frankly.
Anyone?
I agree with you. Mine are 22 and 17, and it's the same problem. So, but the issue is that I think we have to have a slightly different lens, adapting to the fact that there will be a Facebook and there will be a Twitter. I think that has become a given. We have to start seeing business instead of, maybe we can avoid it for a couple of years. I don't see this getting avoided. Because my sense is that we have to start, the older generation has to start adapting to what to do if this is going to continue to happen. Maybe it's okay for some kind of data to go. Maybe do's and don'ts have to be defined, you know, and told. But I don't think you'll be able to stop this. The Gen Y from changing themselves, I don't think that's going to work. That's my feeling. And hence, probably that's what we are saying. I was saying that future is being written somewhere else. And so probably we have to adapt to that and figure out what our security norms need to be.
Yeah, but it's amazing that, you know, when it comes to physical security, right, protecting ourselves, everybody understands this, right? We are careful about what time do we go out, right? So people are aware. So I'm sure if we make them aware, right, there is self-protection that's required. And again, I'll urge business to do this. I think everyone, many of us sitting on this dais and many of you here, actually are making money out of the net, right? And should you not be responsible enough to create materials? Why should every school determine its own material? Why should DSCI not be, widely giving materials out, standard materials in schools and so on, which their teachers can do what they do, right? So would people right now volunteer, raise their hands up to come and help us get that material? We are not experts, but we have the power of aggregation, power of distribution, etc. Right? That we can take this message out on a continuous basis. Tell that, and I can promise you on behalf of both Nasscom and DSCI that we will be responsible to take that up. Right? So,
So we run free university courses for EMC. That's as far as storage goes. We've got a lot of content in terms of security. Where we hit a roadblock is on two aspects which you need to take care of. One is you've got to take care of the IP that is given, and second, the distribution of it. We have no means of distribution, so we have to have somebody that will be able, maybe it's a EarnNet, maybe it's DSCI, I don't know who it is, who will be able to take this content responsibly and distribute it so that the IP is maintained. So that is one of the concerns. But we've got content to provide.
Yeah, but I was probably question you on that, right? I'm not sure which IP you're talking about, but people protecting themselves should be in open domain, right? So just like today, MIT and Harvard are putting their valuable course material on this thing. So I think we should determine which is the IP which gets us business and which IP will help us protect our future to get business. And hence, if part of it is coming into open, so be it. Right? I'm sorry I hogged the time. I hope you enjoyed this, but we have still few minutes. And, I think these people are getting away very easily. So questions from the audience, please. Here goes one. What's that?
There's a mic right there.
So not a question, but
can you put
just
one mic in the
wanted to tell Som that as part of the National Digital Literacy Mission that we are doing, we have built, as part of the National Digital Literacy Mission that we're doing with Nasscom, we've actually built this into the curriculum, so we not only tell people how to use technology, but, build awareness on security aspects. I just wanted to tell you.
There's one here.
My name is Ramurthy.
After that, Mr. Ramurthy's question, then we'll come back to you.
Shall I?
Yes, please.
It's not a question.
So could you keep it closer? We can
it's not a question. It's a comment. Rather, it's a lament. You see, most of the companies have some sort of an inferiority complex here. If something happens in their organization of some data being leaked out or stolen, they have a feeling that if this is publicized, then they will lose their credibility. And so, they don't even go to the police. Actually, the cybercrime police cells, who are very close with us, with our foundation, they say that 99.9% of the cyber crimes that are committed in India are not reported to the police. So, keeping that, I think some sort of an awareness must be done among Nasscom and DSCI members to see that, let us remove that feeling, because it can happen to anybody, as if it's like getting a human being getting cold or cough. It has come to that level. So there must be some sort of a feeling. They must be able to inform the police and make it.
Mr. Ramurthy, I must comment on this. I can ask my colleagues to comment. But when you have a common cold, right, and you want people to know, I think it is a maturity level that the common cold has reached. Right here, we have had sting operations by tabloids, right, where people have, paid money to get publicity. Media overplays up at the smallest incident without ever getting into detail. Companies do have a very high reputational risk, right? Our businesses are dependent. competitors take advantage of your situation when they go, not ever thinking that they have a similar threat or they also had a leakage that happened. So I think we have to, before we come to that utopian situation where we will all feel okay to go and give a complaint, I think the industry needs to mature to that level, knowing that it is not a competitive edge. It can happen to any one of us. We should all work together rather than, take advantage of some breach that got reported through a sting operation or through a leak or whatever else. Any observation?
No, absolutely. I mean, it is common cold also, you don't even tell your wife, leave alone your doctor. So
but to your point, sir, as DSCI, there have been 3 or 4 breaches that we can recall, which were very clear black and white cases. We actually went and filed the FIRs, right? People got arrested. Of course, the prosecution takes its own time, but the fact, these are deterrents that need to be brought into the society. So I appreciate your comment there.
I just want to make one point. Why can't, actually he has a point. Why there are so many areas where you have a very clear norm at a company level. The policy is defined. What needs to be done. Why can't there be awareness to bring this as a part of policies and procedures of an organization where it is necessary, the do's and don'ts, what you do, at what point. Today I think it's a lack of when do I call it a breach and when do I not call it a breach. I think that's the first level. If we can define what breach is, and different companies will have different business imperatives over there, but it's not a bad idea to look at that as an important point. Otherwise we'll never get to that level where awareness can be shared.
Yeah, but I think we have to change, right? I've run businesses as well, and we have had not cyber frauds, but frauds within the company. And as Raman mentioned, our goodness, so to say, right, wrongly so, had made people resign rather than even sack them, right? So I think there has to be a big mind change done, right, that this is not about goodness.
Yeah. My name is Amal Shah, and I am from Mahindra Kambiba, software product development organization. I think implicitly throughout the discussion we actually talk about IT services from India, BPO, but even the business, since the topic of the discussion is business impact is huge for software product development organization as well, because without security, no product can be sold these days, and particularly so for financial products that we develop. So I would request panelists to comment on that.
So it's about
I think security is hygiene today. I mean, we don't really software products, any aspect, it is hygiene. And enhancing that, it could be for the product, it could be a competitive advantage in the marketplace. But it is hygiene, and very little gets spoken about hygiene. That is a given thing. Sorry.
So I'm looking at it from product development on software side, which has a different connotation to it, and that is what they call as secure coding. And the whole process of secure coding, there is very little intelligence and courses available, which ensures that while you build a product out, you build it secure. We did a test to figure out all those engineering graduates and software engineers who are coming out, how many were aware of secure coding, and 89% of them were not aware. The balance who were aware just knew there's something, but it doesn't exist. So you've got to work on that so that you build a product that becomes stronger, it gets acceptable all over, and you also have the possibility of every product coming in checking to see whether they are secure for your country, specifically when it comes to government and very sensitive deployments.
Yeah, so I think we're going to end with this, but I think you raised a very good question, right? How do you make your own products impregnable in a manner, right? And to the point that you raised, Kartik, there are organizations, I know one in the United States, BITS, which is actually part of the financial roundtable, have actually started talking about secure coding. They are giving courses, they are doing certifications. It's not really picked up as a momentum. In fact, Kamlesh and I have discussed this, that could we collaborate with them, because if a large part of that development work is happening here, right, then should we not be partnering on secure coding as well? So, thank you very much. The purpose, most of the people, as we found, were from, from the practitioners of security, right? So you probably all know, but I think we want to raise the bar of what you do in your own organizations, make it a business imperative. I hope you had some takeaways and learnings. We surely had as an organization. I think there is work for us to do. But we as Nasscom or DSCI, right, are basically facilitators. We need industry to participate with us, give us those areas. We can then scale it up to a level that we need to do. So thank you very much for your own participation, and thanks the panel, right, for your interaction and your valuable contribution here.